Hello, everyone. This is Cody Lee of BlackCatBooks.org, author of I, the Dragon, Cool and Beautiful, Rabbit Hole, Lore and Frey, and the upcoming Jaw of the Dragon. So, Nintendo has released their financial reports today, and I had a good look-see at like some of the titles sold. I actually have quite a bit to say about a lot of this. This is really interesting stuff, but the one thing that really stuck out to me, and the one thing I really, really wanted to drive home immediately, is that my prediction 100% came true. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet quite handedly outsold Elden Ring. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet sold like 20 million units. Like Elden Ring has only sold 18 million after like an 8 month head start. Scarlet and Violet didn't come out until November. So in short, uh, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, was a better selling game. It sold faster. It was a much bigger release than Elden Ring. And the reason I bring this up, the reason I was so angry at Elden Ring, and one of the reasons I made a name for myself, like kind of condemning what Elden Ring fans were saying about this release, like there was a really big push among the community to present Elden Ring as the best-selling new IP of all time, the best-selling game of the year, even though it came out in March. And I think what was the third one? Uh, Best selling game, one of the best selling games ever made, right? Like there was a very big coordinated like agenda from these big like Elden Ring fanboy channels to like paint this as like one of the biggest success stories in gaming. The game that like made Nintendo tremble and delay like The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. Like this was supposed to be the biggest release ever. And you know, flash in the pan success. Sword and Shield sold 25 million units. Scarlet and Violet sold 20. Legends Arceus sold like 15. I think Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, the remakes, I think that outsold Elden Ring too. I'll have to check it. I'll have to look at that. Like the reality is there are so many bigger Nintendo franchises than than Souls, honestly. Like Elden Ring only did as well as it did because of the open world thing, the hype from fanboys, and maybe the involvement of George R. R. Martin. Like that's it. Most people I think kind of tuned out of Elden Ring pretty quickly after it came out. It's not all that good of a game. I have no interest in checking it out. I have no expectations for it that it will be particularly well remembered. We're in 2023 now, and once it got its Game of the Year award, it stopped being talked about. It is this year's It Takes Two. The game just cannot compete with superior franchises like Pokemon, at 20 million units sold, like Super Mario Odyssey at 25 million units sold, like Animal Crossing New Horizons at 40 million units sold, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe at 50 million units sold. These games are going to keep selling for years, whilst Elden Ring is kind of relegated to only selling when it hits $10 on Steam or whatever, which the company will then use to inflate their sales numbers. Again, it's interesting to interesting to see this because I knew it would happen. I told people it would happen. And no one believed me. I was laughed at. There were so many salty Elden Ring fanboys making these weird commentary videos about how I didn't appreciate Elden Ring and how I was a casual and how I was just a Nintendo fanboy. Well, guess what? Pokemon Scarlet and Violet didn't even make my top 10 best games of last year. I still loved it. It was still great, but 2022 was so loaded with great Nintendo Switch releases. I did not put Legends Arceus, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet on the list. Legends Arceus was actually my number one pick, my game of the year. And at Legends Arceus, way better game than Elden Ring. It'll be way more fondly remembered. People will look back on it as I think the best Pokemon game in recent years. A true step forward to the franchise. Scarlet and Violet was good as well, but Legends Arceus, I think, really has the potential to really be the Pokemon game for older fans. Even now I kind of find myself going back to it and just marveling at just how good that game actually was. Actually is actually. It's a phenomenal experience. One of the best RPG experiences I've had in a long time. And meanwhile, people are still trying to convince me that Elden Ring was ever good. Dark Souls 3 wasn't good. Dark Souls 2 wasn't good. Dark Souls 1 wasn't good. Like, I've played so many Souls games at this point. Like, I have no real interest. Sekiro wasn't good. I've played so many of these, like, Souls-like games at this point that I have no real interest in, like, ever checking out Elden Ring. There's really nothing you can do to convince me to check out Elden Ring at this point. Like, it's a forgotten game. It is this year's Dragon Quest Inquisition. It won a bunch of awards. People tried hyping it up, but at the end of the day, it will be forgotten.